everyone. Welcome to the Wedding Honey Podcast, the podcast where we chat about weddings with a little bit of sweetness, because we all know weddings can be stressful. We're here to lighten that up. Follow along if you'd like to hear journeys about wedding photography, wedding photographers, and of course, the wedding day. We're also going to be interviewing wedding specialists, and we can't wait for you to follow along. The Wedding Honey Podcast is brought to you by Wedding Bizkit, a photography business course created by Sounds Like Yellow Photography. After 4 years in university, knowing I wanted to start my own wedding photography business, I had no clue how to write a proper invoice or even professionally run my business. I dug deep and curated a brand that is creative just as much as it is professional. Now, 8 years in of running my own successful business, I am proud to say I have the course for you. Are you nervous about being a creative while dealing with high-end professional clients? Look no further. Wedding Bizkit has 10 kits to prepare you for anything that may come your way, like emailing, getting repeat business, and even what to bring to a client meeting. Check out soundslikeyellowphotography.com and find the course that will change your professional outlook. Okay, welcome everyone to our 6th episode of the Wedding Honey Podcast. I'm very happy to have you all here, but I'm even more thrilled and happy to have another just incredible guest. I've been really lucky having some pretty amazing guests, but today I'm very excited to introduce Samantha Florist of Pocket of Posies Floral Design.
Correct.
Yes.
Welcome, Samantha. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Of course. We're so thrilled. Obviously, anybody who listened to last week's episode with Jennifer of the Wedding Pixie, she referenced you so much, and I was like, we have to get Samantha on here now.
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of opportunities to work together recently, so it's kind of nice to
It's really
bring
nice.
It full circle, right?
And I just love having professionals that I just totally get inspired by and just totally am in awe of.
Oh, thank you.
So I definitely am thrilled to have you
Good.
on.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So Samantha is a florist, an incredible florist at that, and she does a lot of different things. You are kind of all over.
Yeah. We try and kind of keep it to weddings and events, but definitely it does creep into other areas of life.
Totally. It's so funny. I'm sure like even you have clients that will use you maybe sort of say for their wedding, and then going forward there's just
baby showers and Mother's Day and
everything.
Special events and sure.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Repeat business is the best.
Absolutely. And you really don't think that a florist is one of those types of vendors that do have a lot of repeat when you don't offer like storefront.
Totally.
Because it's all like pre-order and organized events. So having the repeat customer is kind of nice for them to come back and just say, look, my child's being baptized. Yeah. Can you do it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's special for you because you were there when they got married. Like you saw them at their maybe youngest and sweetest parts. So
it's their brother, their sister, whatever getting married. So
and that's special. That's very special. So tell us kind of like how you got into being a florist, or just kind of your story.
Yeah. So I haven't been a florist all my life. Okay. I've only been doing this for about 7 years. It kind of started where, obviously my creative side has been with me my entire life. My mother's very creative, and I've always been exposed to dried flowers and crafting and all that kind of stuff. But when I was on mat leave with my second child, my husband basically said to me, you need to go do something because you need to get doing something.
He could tell you were just
we had decided I wasn't going to go back to work. Okay. So if you're not going to go back to work, what are you going to do? So I said, I'll go to school. I'll take a couple courses. Had no idea I was going to take. Flipped through the little Mohawk catalog and thought, floral design. That's kind of fun. Maybe I'll try one and see if I like it. And from probably the second course I took, I was hooked.
Really?
And I actually started Pocket of Posies when I was even halfway through the course. I didn't even wait till I was finished.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea you went to Mohawk either. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yep.
So what do you think drew you in? Just because it was a creative outlet? You were like, that's interesting.
I think I just had, I had this natural sense that flowers were always something. I'd always had this little dream in my head that I'd have this beautiful garden one day. And, that English garden cottage.
Oh, that is a dream.
You think, there's a reason why I don't love to garden, though.
Right.
So what is it that I love? Okay, I think it's the flowers that I love.
It's like the best part of the gardening.
So then it was that outlet of creativity that just let me do what I wanted. And it was interesting because I was always that one person in class that kind of went a little bit different than what the teacher was expecting. And I always kind of got, not in trouble for it, but they always pull me out for it.
Interesting.
But it's just the way I was. So.
And also, I think that probably helps you in business so much.
Because you're a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny to have a professor or teacher just say like, oh, you're doing something, like to hear that they were.
Right. Your lines were supposed to be straight and you're a little curved. Yeah. And I'm like, well, it looks better curved.
Yeah.
They would just have to agree to disagree at that point.
And you're like, I'm going to do it this way.
That's right.
That's really cool. So then once you dove into classes, did you know, okay, this is.
Yeah. I kind of just knew that this was something. And then all of a sudden I had this opportunity of a friend who was getting married to say, oh, I could make money at doing this. And then I did their wedding and it just kind of snowballed from there. I think my first year of Pocket of Posies, I did 9 weddings, which was like kind of crazy.
That's a lot for a first year business.
And ever since we've just multiplied.
Oh yeah, skyrocketed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you never looked back. You never thought about going back to what did you do before you had kids?
I was in computers. I was in a business. I was working in an office 9 to 5. I was traveling. I was doing all of that. And I think that part of my life changed when I had kids. Right. So therefore I had to find a new direction.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm sure there are a lot of vendors and your clients that will say you chose correctly.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which is, I mean, it's hard to take that, I'm going to say gamble. It's a little bit of a risk to be like, I'm going to just jump right in.
Well, I think too, in the very beginning, I didn't think it was going to be like a career for me. I still thought it was just something I was going to do for fun.
Right.
And then, you have to sit down with your husband and have the conversation about, okay, what does our future look like and how are you going to contribute? And I thought, well, I could contribute.
For sure.
If I really wanted to.
Right.
Maybe this is the direction. I can stay home. I can still work my own schedule. It works for our family.
Yeah. It works.
Why don't I make it work as a career? So that's when we kind of decided that I would do it for real.
Like full, for real.
For real. Not for fun.
And so how long have you been running Pocket of Posies now?
So 7 years.
7 years. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Does it feel like, again, a blink of an eye?
Blink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blink.
That's the best, though, because it just means you're working really hard.
Right.
And it's obviously growing.
Right.
Right.
It's funny because I'll look and I'll think that, I keep thinking in my brain it's a 2-3 year like I've been doing it for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Then I'll go back to look for photos for content, and I'll be like, oh, I did that wedding in like 2015. That's great. I can use that photo. You don't think about that. That's 4 years ago. Oh, that's 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it like you said, it just feels a couple. Yeah. Couple 2, maybe, whatever. And it's funny because we met actually at a wedding, the Hamilton wedding show. It was 2015.
Yeah.
Because I've one thing that I love with this podcast is I go to the vendors' Instagram and I go all the way back to their first photos because I love seeing those. I kind of want to do a post about that. Just like scroll through the people that you're following, go back.
Well, actually, it was you at the wedding show that said to me, "Are you on Instagram?" And I said, "No." She goes, "You need to be on Instagram." And I said, "I do?" And yes, you do.
That was your first
And my
post.
First photo is a picture of my booth.
Yep.
Because I took it that day when you told me I needed to be on Instagram and I created an account.
Amazing.
I think we probably did it while we were waiting for people to come
For
through our
sure
booth.
we did. For sure we did.
But yeah.
It's so funny. It like brought me back to that day seeing your booth. I was like, that was 4 years ago.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild. And so what I still remember about that specific day and meeting you was, of course, the florals were beautiful, but your giveaway was your business card and then a little packet
of flower food.
It was brilliant.
Yeah, everybody thought it was a condom. Because it was a package that I had stapled to the back of my card that looked like that.
Is so
but
funny.
It was a flower food, yeah.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
I remember telling so many people, like, go get your flower food.
Yeah.
Because I have always thought, why can't I buy like 3 or 4 packets of these flower food? Like when I get flowers.
Yeah.
So I thought that was absolutely brilliant on your part. And I still think about that like from time to time. So seeing that was a little throwback for me.
Thank you.
So then... So 7 years.
Yeah.
So what has your journey been like in the wedding industry?
I think it's evolved immensely due to the contacts I've made over the 7 years.
Amazing.
Like meeting vendors and having friends that are vendors, and then it just snowballs very quickly. Wedding shows, you meet so many people, and all of a sudden you start working with those people because they had that commonality of being in a show together. Participating in one wedding snowballs into other weddings when you work with vendors who really appreciate your work, because they're always recommending you or, you know, putting you on their preferred list.
Exactly.
And so it kind of has evolved quickly, but at a good pace for me. I'm at a good place where I'm not taking on too much,
which is important. There's that fine line.
There is a very fine line. And we have that conversation every year. Okay, what is the number this year? What is the number this year? And it always changes. But
totally. But it's cool though that we can actually say that. Okay, what's the number? What are we going for?
Right.
And you know, like, okay, mentally I can do this number, but like I kind of want to do this number.
Right. So over 7 years, it's been a gradual increase. And I think this is the first year I've stepped back. Well, last year I stepped back and reduced my number quite a bit because I had taken a large chunk of time off in the summertime. Just
which
for
was
our family.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
So
we just
smart.
decided we needed to do that. We had a rough couple summers. So then this year I said, okay, well, that was too much. I can't do that again because that made my life crazy in the fall. But we still scaled the numbers back with, you know, increasing prices and still being able to maintain the margin that you want to stay at. And just scaling it back a bit. So I've always been up, and now I'm kind of stepping back a little bit, but still not sacrificing when I'm stepping back.
And that's what I was going to say. It's proper growth.
Right.
I feel like in any business, there has to be that, okay, I need to take a little step back.
Right.
Because, I mean, I remember that year that you did, it was last year that in the fall, you had so many weddings.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I am happy that you can say, okay, yeah, that was a little crazy. How can I rejig my summer next year, or just the season next year?
Even my florists that work with me said, we're not doing another wedding like we did that weekend when we had 5. And I'm like, no, we're never doing that again. We learned from our mistakes.
5 weddings. Anybody in the wedding industry would be like jaw-dropping to hear 5 in one weekend.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? You pulled it off so well. Most people would be like, oh no, it wasn't that weekend.
Yeah.
But you just hustle. You work really hard to make it work.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing.
You have to sometimes.
Yep.
Right?
And so a lot of your contacts, like you said, within the vendor world, wedding vendor world, it's so amazing. I was just going to say that you create these amazing relationships with these people that, I mean, when else would you have met all of these incredible vendors?
Absolutely not.
Right?
Right.
And it's so interesting to be like, oh my gosh, I spend so much of my time with these people.
It's true.
And it's not like a job where you go and you're forced to work with that person. You're actually choosing to work with that.
And you're finding ways to work with that person.
Exactly.
Like, for instance, a podcast.
Exactly. Or a creative photo shoot.
Or just lunch.
Or just lunch, which we just did 3 days ago.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like we could meet every week and still have something new to talk about.
Absolutely.
It's wild. Just even like talking about being in the wedding industry.
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about.
For sure.
Yeah.
We all have stories. We all have adventures.
Oh gosh, the adventures.
Journeys.
Hence where this podcast came from.
That's right.
It's like, let's hear all of them.
That's right. Our lives are full of content.
Full of content. We are content creating just by living.
That's right.
So another reason why I wanted to have you on today, because we wanted to chat about venues. Mm-hmm. So, because I thought that'd be interesting for the listeners to hear just our take as a photographer and as a florist, the venues, mostly, of course, in our area. So we are in Ontario, Canada. And I just thought it'd be cool to kind of chat about our perspective on certain venues in the area. Some that we are just in love with, and some that may be a little bit trickier to work with.
Right.
And even just some that maybe we want to work at. So in terms of venues, what are some of your favorite? Let's start with favorite venues.
Right.
That
I think that we're lucky in this sense that we have a variety of types of venues in our area.
We do.
So we
well
run
said.
from large banquet hall type style venues to the small little winery to even like the home barn. Farm that's just trying to get into the industry. Right. So I think the fact that we have such variety allows us to be give our clients opportunities that they would maybe not think of.
Right.
And so then we get to also see so much different opportunities for what we can do at these venues.
Right.
And as a florist, the venue is kind of important because we are the ones who are helping you kind of pull off this vision.
Exactly.
And the venue really speaks a lot to the style the wedding that you want.
Yep.
And then we just add to that.
Agreed.
So I think that the fact that we have those big bucks and those big corporate banquet halls, they're still used.
Yeah.
Just as much as the small wineries.
Exactly.
It's someone's style.
Yep.
There's always something out there for everybody.
Agreed.
So,
and there's just so many weddings. Like I always think about,
there's not a shortage.
There's no shortage of weddings, of venues, of vendors. There's just always, someone is always going to be looking for their style.
Right. And that's why that whole concept of community over competition works, because
for sure
there's a plethora of business out there.
Course.
You just have to be the right fit for that couple.
Yep.
And if you're not, they'll find the fit with someone else.
For sure.
And if you're not it, there's someone else around the corner.
I agree. Yeah. And it's so true that you say that when you think of like the venue and then you bringing components to add to that venue.
Right.
So most couples will come to you with their venue, correct?
Right.
Like in terms of the booking process?
Yeah, we're usually about just after they've decided when and where.
Correct.
We're usually the next large vendor that they're going to secure. I think mainly because florals don't need to be secured and finalized in advance.
Right.
You just need to book us so that we hold your date, and then every detail can happen, and then we can come and put the topping on everything.
Right. So when couples come to you with their when and where, do you sometimes say like, when they say their venue, do you already have a thought of what that venue is? I mean, you've worked at so many.
Yes, there's the ones that make you cringe, and then there's the ones that make you smile.
Exactly.
So yes, I think you do. I still have to put that aside from what past experience I've had. I obviously can offer some advice for when the past experience has shown me what does and doesn't work at a venue.
Right.
But I still have to put it aside. It's their choice. It's their vision.
Of course.
And I'm not the one to say that's not the best.
And sometimes I'm sure we've all been there where it's like, okay, that's going to be a trickier day. And it just flows perfectly. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, or it's not my favorite, but I'm going to make it work.
Exactly.
It's still their wedding day. It's not
still
mine.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Right.
And they're still as joyous as you would be if it was at maybe your choice of venue.
Correct.
Or day.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting that it's cool because you're, again, the creative aspect of your job when a couple sits down and says, okay, this is where we're getting married, and you immediately can envision that venue, that the exact layout of what their day is going to look like.
Right.
And where most couples can't.
Right. And if I can say that I've done a handful, even 20, 30 weddings at that venue, I will still come up with a way to do something different.
That's amazing.
Because it's a different day. It's a different couple, and it's a different vision. So
for sure.
I want to try and
make it
a little
so
different.
special. I mean, which is why you get clients, and I think other vendors see that. It's never a repeat. And I think that's very easy for some vendors to slip back into. I'll just do exactly like I did last time.
Or they have standard a la carte purchases, right?
Yep.
You buy the same bouquet all the time.
Exactly. But it's great that you change it up.
Yeah.
That's what, sets you apart.
And it keeps me interested in
the
job.
That's true.
Right?
That's so
It'd be pretty boring if I had to do the same thing all the time, too.
I couldn't imagine.
Creatively like to keep myself challenged as well.
And that's important.
Right.
So in terms of a venue, what would your perspective be as the florist? Like, what is it that you see?
Right. So I think I consider the space and how we can utilize the space to the best ability.
Right.
So taking all of those nooks and crannies, and can we apply something to fill those nooks and crannies? Can we make an entrance a little more grand because we add flowers to some part of that doorway?
Exactly.
Or everybody does a fireplace. Can we do a floor? Can we do the entrance instead of at the other end? So I think the space itself, I've always said to them, okay, let's break down that space and say, okay, we're going to take care of the tables, and we're going to take care of, the standard decor that every bride wants. What else can we do that's a little bit different? Want to have a little corner that we can do photos in? Do we want to have a little special memory table that's decorated for those special photos?
Amazing.
I think just utilizing all of the space and what it has to offer,
so important,
is a good starting point.
Yep.
And then I think, too, we also look at the limitations that venue might have as well, because those are going to come into part when the bride has this grand vision or has this particular vision, and I kind of have to say, it's not going to work. We got to kind of modify it.
Well, you have to be the realistic voice at that point, because it would be the worst if you said, yeah, let's do it. And then day of, break that person's heart,
Right.
or change the vision and be like, ugh, we just couldn't do it. So you have to be that way.
Right. And you kind of have to think in advance about, and I always do kind of prep myself a little bit because I usually do know where the venue is before we actually meet for the first time. So I will kind of in the back of my head have some different ideas for them to kind of propose at the time when that question comes up about, well, I'd love to do this. And you're like, well, I don't think that's possible.
Right. Or they don't allow that.
Right. There are some certain limitations that are dictated from the venue itself.
Right.
I mean, the biggest, most common one is petals. Lots of venues don't want to have those loose petals around.
I wouldn't even think about that.
Right,
I'd be like,
but who's
no
going to
problem.
clean it up? Who's going to take care of it?
Right.
What's going to do when they're tracked around the whole place?
So true. And you think, and I'm sure the couple is thinking, oh, it's just a few petals.
Right.
When you're like, not really.
Right.
There's a lot of repercussions from those just a few
candles are another one. Like there's all kinds of limitations that the venue puts on us. So if I can be aware of those and I can present those in addition to the venue presenting them to the couple, then they'll understand
for sure
it's a limitation we can't control.
And it's nice coming from a vendor that you've already booked and you trust. Like obviously those couples trust you. So when you say, you know what, they're going to be sticklers about their candles and they need to be in those what are they called? Hurricane?
Or tapered
glass.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear from you because then you can say, let's talk about how we can change it to make your day look beautiful.
For sure.
Rather than the venue just saying, sorry, I can't do that.
Right.
Because that's not their job to find an alternate. It's nice that it's coming from someone that they trust like you.
Right.
Which is great.
Right.
It is interesting too, even just as a photographer when I walk in and it's kind of like a surprise for me too, because I don't meet with you guys, of course, during the day. But I have worked on some weddings with Samantha and your team, and it's just incredible when I walk in and it's like, oh, they thought of everything. Like I'll look in parts of the room that I'm like, I've never seen flowers there, or I didn't even think that flowers could be there. So it's nice as a photographer, as I'm sure with guests and the wedding, everybody in part of the wedding goes in and says, wow, look at all of this is beautiful. And it's nice because it's like, oh, I get to take photos of that. I would never take photos of this part of the room.
Yes, it becomes part of the story, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things we consider too, like lighting. And so if you're going to have a daytime wedding, why are you going to waste all your money on candles that can't be seen or provide any kind of ambiance? So we consider lighting, we consider timing, we consider color, we consider like the carpets. Let's say the carpets are bright red and you want pink flowers. Do you want that contrast?
It might clash.
It might clash.
Yeah.
It's up to you, but we consider that stuff in advance before we even dive into what our details are.
It's amazing. It's so funny because as the photographer, I walk in and I'm like, this looks great. And I should, and I do think about parts of the wedding day, but it's like, wow, you really assisted and helped with that. Like, thank goodness Sam was there, kind of thing, right? Because you never know. I mean, people might not think about those certain parts.
think that's also what differentiates, like, I'm obviously a home space studio floral design, as opposed to a floral shop who does take an order and delivers an order. I do think there's a bit more of a personal involvement when it comes to the actual planning and working out all of those details that they might not consider.
That's so true.
We do spend our time in pride to provide that for our couples.
Of course. That's so true. Because I know you've taken time to like go and scout a venue because you want to see those things. Or if a venue has been updated, maybe they've got renovations, you're first to say, oh yeah, I went and checked it out.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Whereas you're so right. Another florist shop probably wouldn't have the time to.
Oh yeah, I've been to that venue. I know what it looks like.
Right. 10 years ago.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's really interesting. And I think there's a lot to be said for booking companies like you, where there's going to be a little bit more love put into that.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Amazing. Now, you did speak to some of the rules that some of the venues put into place. Are there any that you're ever shocked by? Like we said, the candles and...
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be shocked. I mean, there's obviously I've had a few instances where it's a timing pickup and tear down issue. So some venues are quite easy to let you leave it for the night and come the next morning. Some are very adamant. I've had one venue that I have from the time that the staff has to clean up to the time the staff is done. And I have to be done in the same window as them, because the moment they're done, we shut down.
Whoa.
And it's like, well, how can you give me that? And how can you put a quantity of time on that for me so that I understand what I have to do in order to get that done?
Interesting.
So does that mean I need an hour?
Right.
Or do I have 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So then I have to prep my whole setup based on what I have time to take it down.
So true.
So why am I thinking about the poor couple who I have to run in there and tear it down in 20 minutes that took us 2 hours to set it up?
Right.
That's my issue to work around, and I have those limitations with some venues.
Right.
Obviously installations.
Oh yes, some big installations.
Yeah, you have to consider all of the building and structure and how you're going to actually install into that structure.
And then take it down too.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I guess, because I mean, you walk in,
there's a ladder.
Right.
I have to bring a ladder. Like, there's little things you have to think about.
Little things.
Yeah, that you can't rely on the venue to say.
To supply?
Oh, it's all totally up to you.
Yep. Because you never know walking in, like, maybe last time they had 3 ladders, this time they have none.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess there's a lot that you really... Do you ever find that you have to communicate with the venue?
Absolutely, I do. If I'm doing large installations, that's usually a conversation that we have with the venue and not necessarily involve the couple. They know what they want, and they know what I've said, yep, I can execute that. How I do it really doesn't really concern them, or they don't really want to be bothered with those types of details. Yeah. So then it becomes a venue and myself working together on how we can make that happen.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
To know that you have
a coordinator.
Those
Sometimes there's a coordinator, we would do that together. It just depends on the
venue. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool that you can have those relationships, though. Mm-hmm. It helps, of course, going forward. They can say, oh, yes, this florist has been here several times. Mm-hmm. They work well with me, blah, blah, blah. Right. So that's cool, too. Yep. There's always relationships.
Absolutely.
Everywhere
you don't want to burn a bridge anywhere.
Never. So in terms of, like, a couple choosing a venue, or even a photographer or planner out there trying to choose a venue for, say, a styled shoot, what are some things that we should consider when we're choosing a venue?
Well, I definitely think aesthetics and the style of what you want to do there will really play into the venue that you're going to select.
Very true.
Obviously, if you're looking for that rustic feeling country wedding, I would suggest you go to a barn.
Yeah.
If you're looking for that Cinderella crystal ball, then you're a ballroom girl.
Right.
So I think that it really depends on the style, and the feel and the vision that you want for the wedding.
Well said.
You need to select the venue that has that aesthetic
going for it.
Yeah. Instead of us having to do 100% of the work, we're just going to make it look pretty.
Right.
We can't make a ballroom look like a barn. It just doesn't happen.
It won't work. Mm-mm. No. Mm-mm. The concept could be there, but it just sometimes won't translate. Mm-hmm. And that's tough. I have seen venues really completely change, but it's still a ballroom, say. Right. You know what's actually there.
Right.
I mean, right now we're in my really old attic, and I've put up lace, but in the end it's still an attic.
Right.
Right? So it's like you said, it's what you're going for.
Yeah. I also think availability is a really big thing. If you want to have a wedding that you want to have an outdoor space and an indoor space, then you have to consider if it's available to do that, the weather, the timing, all of that, because if you have this vision of being outside for 90% of your wedding and they don't even have a balcony, then what are you going to do? You're going to stand in the parking lot. Yeah. Like, you have to consider what it is that you want out of that venue,
right?
In addition to what you want to add to that venue.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, it must be hard not being a part of the wedding industry for couples and saying, okay, where do we even begin?
Right.
So that's a really good point. Like, first think of, like, what are you going for?
Right. What's your look? What's your vision?
Yeah. What's your vision?
Yeah.
And that's where maybe Pinterest comes in and maybe helps and sometimes can hinder.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Nemesis,
yep.
Sure.
It is. As much as we all love Pinterest, it can sometimes just really give you a glamorized view of what something could look like.
Right.
And they also don't put the price tag. This is what I always think.
No, it's true. Or availability.
Yes.
Because that could be a bouquet that was made in Australia with flowers that are foreign to this country that we could never get our hands on.
Never.
But I want it.
Right.
No, it doesn't work that way.
It can't work. I would love that to happen. I'm sure we'd all love that. But I always look through it. Even I kind of do it sometimes. I'm like, ooh, I wish my living room could look like that. They should just put a little amount of how much it all costs.
It can all look like that.
This is true.
There's just a price.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. So these are all really good tips for venue, like when you're booking for wedding or even a styled shoot. Samantha and I have worked on a few styled shoots together, and I think that's always the first thing we kind of like to talk about is what are we actually going for?
Right.
What's our look?
And sometimes it doesn't even involve a venue. Like we've done one where we decided to do it out in the woods because that was the aesthetic of the shoot that we wanted. And guess what? A venue, we couldn't find one that provided what it is we were looking for. And that's another thing. That's okay. Like you can go outside of the box when you're looking to do something like that. We can certainly help you make your backyard look beautiful if that's what you want to do, because you can't find that venue that fits your vision.
Exactly.
So some people are really driven by saying, no, I have to have a sit-down dinner, or I have to have X out of a venue. And sometimes that can make your whole wedding shift because you weren't open to being a little bit outside the box.
Totally. And I think it's great now that we're in this modern day. I feel like there are so many more options. Right. But like you said, like to have a backyard wedding is very doable nowadays. Mm-hmm. And it's really fun for vendors to come into a space like that where obviously we haven't been before, but to work with it and create that like really fun vision, make it come to life.
We all like a challenge. We don't like to do the boring same old.
No, give us a challenge. We
sure.
will run with it, and it's fun for us to make it really work too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing. So let's go back to just weddings and you being in the wedding industry. What is some of your favorite parts of just being part of that wedding story for couples?
I think probably the one thing that even as a person and myself as a child, I can remember that sometimes the flowers and the smells trigger memories. Ooh. So I've had so many brides come back to me and say, I just loved my flowers. To this day, I can remember how they smelled. Oh. Or, those kinds of things are triggers. So I love being part of the fact that if they're going to take away something from their wedding, there's a memory that was made because of a flower.
That's incredible.
Like, that's really special.
Really special. Mm-hmm. And that's so funny you say that, because I can't tell you how many times the bride will walk by me with her bouquet and I'm like, whoa. Yeah. It's so amazing. It's like a perk of my job to just, yours too. Right. But that's so true.
And the other thing I always give as advice to my couples is I always say, what is the one thing you're going to take away from this wedding? That you're going to, in 10 years, you can look at and take from? Well, the reality is it's your photos. So what's important in those photos? What you're wearing.
Right.
What you're holding.
Right.
Those are the only thing, and maybe where it was.
Right.
But even still, it doesn't matter what was on your plate at the dinner. No. It doesn't matter what was in your glass when you were drinking it. Yeah. It's the flowers you were holding that's in that picture that's on that wall for the next 25 years.
For sure.
So it's really special to be a part of that, to have that creative piece hanging in somebody else's house that they appreciated and loved.
So true. And I know a lot of couples who keep their flowers and dry them.
Sure.
So it's literally flowers that they keep, because it is a beautiful, almost like a little souvenir that you can keep. So, and to look back on and say, oh my gosh, those are from my wedding.
And I have a lot of couples who will send me pictures of what they've done with it, or
I love
all
that.
The different options that they've found that they can use for their bouquet.
That's so special.
So it's really nice to know that that's a lasting memory for them.
Amazing. And so true with the scent. That's huge.
Well, you have those triggers, right?
Yep.
And smell is one.
Huge.
So if we can provide that for somebody, special.
Why not? Yeah, that's a really good point. I never thought about that, actually. And flowers, I find, are such a perfect icing on the cake. Like, there's so many shots where I'm like, ooh, where are the flowers? Like, everyone looks so great right now, but we need all the flowers. Like, it's perfect. And then they grab them from their vases, and it just looks so great.
Right. They should be icing. They really, they should be added to the beauty and enhancing everything for the day.
Yep. And they really do. That's so true. And then, okay, so we did kind of chat about when you're booked in the planning process.
Right. It's earlier and earlier these days.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's like people are booking 1 and 2 years out.
Oh, yeah. We're already have several bookings for 220.
Yeah.
And I actually just had an inquiry for 221.
I know.
And I kind of was like, okay, we can chat, but
it's so far away.
Yeah,
and your ideas will change.
Yes,
guaranteed.
Absolutely. And I think that's the nice thing about our process, and mine specifically. I can't speak for all florists and how they handle their quoting process, but we go and we talk about what you would love and what is your dream wedding.
Right.
And I'm going to put that on paper for you because that's what you want to attain. It's your goal. I appreciate things happen and it may not be attainable for 6 months from now.
Yep.
But let's start there and then we can pare it back. So let's say your dream is that you want to have blue bridesmaids dresses.
Right.
But the reality of once you all picked them, they ended up being pink.
Right.
Well, we can change every aspect of that quote and those flowers to match what you ended up with, not what you dreamt of.
Exactly.
So our process is easy. You just want to secure that we're going to be there for you.
That is the most important.
And then we don't talk till like 10, 12 weeks before the wedding.
Right.
So
we'll see you then.
You can change your mind 700 times.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure they will.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I have folders and folders of pictures that brides will send me. Just say, I saw this. Can you put that away?
Yep.
Oh, I saw this. Can we talk about this in 6 months?
Wow.
So, yeah.
And then you sit down with them and you scroll back and you're like, remember this?
Yeah, can we get rid of this? What are we doing?
Are you still loving this or are we moving on?
Yeah.
And it is kind of cool to see now that you've been doing this for 7 years. I'm sure there's trends that have passed and are coming back.
For sure.
Are you ever kind of like surprised by seeing someone say like, okay, like right now, what would you say is like one of the biggest trends?
I think I could pick a couple this right now. Greenery is really big trend.
Huge.
Colors are big trends.
Yes.
So we can talk about that a little bit more in detail, but coloring, it becomes very trendy.
Yes.
And I think too, the amount of flowers can be trendy.
Oh.
So you can go from simple to an abundance, and that seems to shift every couple of years.
Really?
Right now we're moving, I think, in my opinion, we're moving out of the abundance to the simple again.
Yep, I can see that.
Because we went through this whole phase of just feeling like you were in a forest to just wanting to simplify and make them stand out.
Right.
That's a trend that I think is definitely happening. I definitely see it in bouquet sizes over the next year. People are tending to go a bit smaller than the big bouquets.
Outrageous giant. Yep.
We touched on color. I can see color shifting. Color blush and white was a huge trend for a very long time. The trend is now going like mauve. So it's still the same family. It's just taking a bit more of a dramatic look. So,
and it's funny because when you say that, I think, okay, yeah, like in photos, I do see that bright and airy was very popular for so long, and it always will be. There'll always be those couples that want
the neutral,
but those like deeper contrasty vibes are definitely coming through.
They are
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, so color plays a big role in trending for sure. And I mean, it happens in the world. So we all wait in September when Pantone actually announces their color of the year, and then you see it in fashion, you see it in home accessory, you see it in furniture, you see it everywhere.
Right.
Weddings is the same. It takes a little bit longer.
It does, yeah.
It's usually a year to get it to that place.
Fully embraced.
Right. So this summer, coral is big because it's the color of the year, but in September it'll change. So it's taken us a little while to get that color in there. But yeah, I think color is probably one of the biggest trends that you'll see.
And it's ever changing. Because it'll be like, I mean, you've seen it on their Pinterest board from a year ago.
Yeah.
And then now it's, like you said, maybe the same family, but it does shift.
Right.
And that's kind of fun, though, for you to kind of play, of course, with the color.
For sure.
It's really nice.
It's the one thing we do get to be a little bit creative with is color.
Yeah. And it's so funny. Even someone like me who's very visual, you'll say, oh, it's this and this color together. And I can see it, but I can't. But then when I see the bouquet, I'm like, that looks amazing. How did those even work together? But they do.
Right.
It's so cool, and it's great that florists, and like I know for you in particular, I'll see an image and I'm like, how did that even you pulled that off?
Right.
It's incredible.
Years and years of training.
Yes,
Gillian.
yes.
I'm a specialist in color theory. No.
No, well said. You totally are.
You do have to have a little bit of something.
Oh, for sure. To just know, like, oh, those colors will not work.
Right.
Even if I have the prettiest
I'm not sure that I ever say 100% that won't work.
Interesting.
Because I'm challenged to find some way to work it.
That's amazing.
So I don't know if I've ever said no to anything.
Amazing.
That says,
as you shouldn't.
It's not my choice again.
Yep.
It's theirs,
yep.
right?
They're
so
gonna
I just have to find a way to make it look acceptable to me.
Right.
But
and they'll
beautiful
love it
to them.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what they're for some reason they're drawn to that. So you just give it that little magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So on that note, what keeps you creative? What keeps you kind of like going forward? Do you find
I think that we all find that downtime.
Yes.
A time where we try and maybe step out of the wedding world for a while. I choose to try and do other things during that time just to kind of help me creative. Like, I'm a huge fan. I don't miss the Canada Bloom show every year. I love to go and
That's
just see
awesome.
what's trending in that world. I've done over the past couple of years some events that kind of step us out of our creativity. We participated in Floridaville a couple of years, and we just actually got word that they're going to come back to Toronto. So we're super excited
That's
to
huge.
hopefully do that again.
Yeah.
But that allowed us to creatively. So for those who don't know what Floridaville is, it was a show that they've done for the past 2 years where they have mannequins and florists from all over the city participate and actually decorate a mannequin in like an outfit made 100% of flowers.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to be in the room with all of those creative people and see the outcome and the different styles and ideas that come from them.
Amazing.
So that is a real creative outlet.
Huge.
Let's build something that's normally built out of something other than flowers and make it with flowers.
But it still looks like, oh, I totally wear that.
Mm-hmm.
I was very lucky that I went and actually took photos of Samantha setting hers up. What was that, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
So anybody listening on YouTube, there will be some images that I'll add from that day because it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing to see you work, especially on something so unique like that. It really just came together.
Yeah.
Like, seeing what you brought in, a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
But then to see it all put together, I was like, whoa, that's an actual outfit.
Right.
Made of flowers.
Right. And then I think last year, too, I can send you a couple images from
Please
last
do.
year. But last year we took it a bit further and they wanted us to really create a stage for her to be on.
Wow.
So we created, our sponsor was the Tulip Festival. So we used the tulips and created a garden. And we even made like mushrooms out of flowers. And we created
incredible.
stepping stones out of flowers. Like, we even took it a little bit farther, and it allows us to creatively explore somewhere that we wouldn't normally get to do.
Totally.
And if anybody asks, how do you make a purse out of flowers? Well, we can figure that out.
Yep.
We made shoes. We made everything.
We made mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is like a real, I look forward to that every year to do it. We were really sad at first when Floridaville said they weren't going to come back to Toronto.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh.
Why did you know why they couldn't do it?
I'm not 100% sure. I anticipate that they are looking at a way to generate some revenue from this event.
Right.
So perhaps Toronto wasn't a market that was successful for them at that point in time. I did notice that they just posted a picture of our little fairy girl from last year as a spring note on their Instagram. And I made a comment and just said that I was really sad that we weren't getting a chance to do that. And I got a note saying, check your inbox. We've decided to add a show to Toronto.
That's fantastic.
That was like super excited. I got on the phone with all of my associates that we do at work with. And we were like, what? Do we get to do it?
That's really cool.
So we don't know if we get to do it yet. It might conflict with wedding season.
True. But it's just nice to hear that it's coming back,
right?
Yes,
and then the juices get flowing, the texts start flowing, the pictures and the ideas.
I was thinking this
of what are we gonna do? Just
that's
start
so
going.
fun. So that's a huge creative
it's
push.
It's very great, very big,
huge. That's so cool.
And I do have associates that do windows and do displays, and so those are always fun to participate with.
To just be different. It's something completely different than a wedding, and it's nice to play with that.
Yeah, and I'm one to always have flowers in my house, so I'm always doing something.
Always.
With them, always.
We saw Samantha around Valentine's Day, and she had these beautiful Valentines basket for us just because it was amazing. I was like, wait, you actually like play with flowers outside of work?
Yeah.
I kept thinking that every time I looked at them, but I was like, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
It just proves how much you
love it.
If I don't
go to the wholesalers for like 2 weeks, I get the itch and I just go.
That's
because
amazing.
I'm like, oh, I haven't seen what's out there.
Exactly.
In a couple weeks. I need to go see what's out now.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's just a natural thing.
I love that. So our last question we always like to ask is, what are some of your predictions for next year? in terms of
That's
style?
a tough one.
It is.
I mean, again, it'll be interesting to see what the color trend will be because it always follows.
Yeah.
I find, and I don't know if this is with everybody, we have the budget plays a big role in a lot of couples, and we find that sometimes it gets tighter and then it gets looser and then it gets tighter, and that the trend kind of dictates how much money people want to spend on it.
Big time.
I do think that people are loosening a little bit of their purse strings when it comes to flowers and using them to really dictate the decor and the feel and the aesthetic of their wedding. So I do think that flowers aren't going anywhere.
Oh, gosh, no.
And that hopefully we can be a part of areas of the wedding that we don't always get to do.
Yeah.
And use flowers for that.
Yep.
So I'm hoping the trend is that we start
I hope so too.
To use them a little bit more.
That's amazing.
But you never know.
You never know. Yep. And like you said, it's a good challenge for you to say, okay, where else can we put these?
Right.
Where else can we use these beautiful pieces
Right.
that just enhance?
Right.
Yep.
So.
Okay, great predictions. I like that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Samantha, for coming on. This was so great. I learned a lot. I feel like every time I chat with people, I'm like, oh, I never thought about that.
Well,
so
I'm glad to participate.
Yes. So for people who want to come check you out and drool over all of your amazing work, where are you online, and what's your Instagram?
Sure. Our website is pocketofposies.ca.
Right.
And our Instagram handle is at pocketofposiefloraldesign.
Perfect.
And we are on Facebook as well.
Amazing. I will link everything in the description of the podcast, but you just have to go check out this. It's just beautiful. It's inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
And it's so nice to just see that like little pop of color come through.
Well, and I do have to say that, we do rely on the photographers to take those beautiful photos of our flowers so that we do get to share. So there is a special relationship that happens with that as well. Agreed. Because without you, we can't showcase the work that we necessarily do.
That's so nice. Yeah, looking through your website, I'm like, wow, so much beauty.
Yes, and wow, nice. Look, we did this one, and this one, and this one.
I know, it makes me so happy. I'm like, oh, we were there that day. Amazing. Well, thank you again, Samantha.
Always a pleasure.
Can't wait to have you on again because there'll be definitely something else we can chat about.
Yes, for sure.
Always something.
Always.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.